The people around her murmur amongst themselves, asking if this is the timid duchess they once knew before someone else mentions how Rosalie was not like this. As Rosalie walks into the room like the worst mother offer, she spots Bella within the crowd and wonders where Marquis of Wendell is. Someone then yells into the crowd, welcoming His Highness the Crown Prince. All the ladies blush as Derivis then appears and stands before Rosalie. He mentions how the shoes she wore yesterday were beautiful, and that they are today as well. Rosalie maintains a stone face as someone then calls for Divi and Rosalie. It's our friendly neighborhood snake named Sonia. She asks if Divi went out with Rosalie yesterday and says that this saddens her. She then notes that the music has started and then calls for Derivis. Sonia gets completely ignored as Divi asks if the princess remembers the bet they made yesterday and tells her that he wants his wish fulfilled today. Sonia stands in complete silence before turning around and slithering off. Rosalie asks if he can think of something other than dancing with her, to which Divi asks if that is her wish. She angrily says yes, to which Derivis then notes that he'll just have to ask her to dance next time. Rosalie then says, if that is the case, then she shall go meet with someone now then. Divi asks if she is referring to her lover, to which she just says no. Divi then happily says that he sees. He tells her if that is so, then she may leave now. Rosalie then proceeds to wander around looking for Marquis of Wendell. She then spots Bella and him together as they finally meet. She notes how the real battle finally started as Dumb and Dumber then exited the room. As Rosalie monitors them, some girl in red heels says hey to the Duchess of Judahart. It is Bianca Bright, who is Marquis Bright's second daughter. Bianca says, it is a pleasure to meet the Duchess and mentions how she seems close with the Crown Prince. Rosalie walks by her, saying they are not as close as she thinks, which causes Bianca to turn with a glare. Bianca then tries to throw her drink at Rosalie, but our skilled mommy catches it without spilling a drop. This stuns the crowd as Rosalie tells the lady she needs to train her grip. This further infuriates the pick-me girl. As the girl runs off, Rosalie notes how this seems to be the original villain who had a crush on Derivis. During the novel, this girl hires a kidnapper to abduct Sonia, only to be saved by the Crown Prince later on. As Bianca storms off, a lady watching from a distance lets out a smile. She flaps her fan open as she notes how Rosalie is quite an interesting person. This lady would turn out to be a countess named Moir on Seth. Later, outside the palace, Rosalie walks alone, thinking about how no one is out here as well as how nice and quiet it is. She notes that Bella and Marquis of Wendell have probably finished their sweet talk by now, as a boot can then be seen. She then is surrounded by a bunch of NPCs wearing masks. She stares around, noting how there are 8 of them, and that they seem to wear those masks to decorate their face. Rosalie then removed her heels and flung one of them at a thug's face. She then hits him with a nasty uppercut, as she notes how these guys seem to lack strength. She grabs the man's sword and notes how having her dagger would have been nicer. She then slices his neck, as the other men stare. Rosalie's golden eyes stared as someone charged at her before a sword was seen flying in the air. She has the man in a chokehold with a necklace, as someone then grabs her from behind. They cover her mouth, likely with sleep poison, as she then stares down and says a non-monetizable word. Her eyes close as one man shouts about how they lost 3 men because of her. They then yell about how they should get paid more to beat Rosalie up. Rosalie's eyes are still open, as the man tells Bianca she did not tell them this girl would be skilled. Rosalie lays with her hands tied as she now realizes it was Bianca behind this. Rosalie notes how this is likely due to the rumors of her and Derivis being out yesterday, which basically means the story got twisted. She notes how she needs to loosen the rope up as the guard assigned to her mentions how noisy everyone is. Rosalie rustles around as the man then steps over, mentioning how the drug seems to have little effect on her. Rosalie notes that he is getting closer, and then gives him an uppercut kick. The men scramble inside, wondering what's going on as they stare at Rosalie. who finally has a dagger. One man then grabbed Bianca, telling her to come with him. He tells Rosalie that if she moves an inch, he'll cut Bianca as. Bianca then yells, asking what he is doing, and if he forgot who his boss is. Rosalie says that non-monetarizable word again and notes how this is all getting on her nerves. Meanwhile, at the party, someone yells, having finally noticed that the Duchess of Judahart has gone missing. This shocks Devi as we see Sonia later discover Rosalie's necklace and shoes on the floor. Sonia turns to tell Derivis about what she has found, but is stunned by the sight of him. He grimly tells her and his men to search the entire palace immediately. Later, in some dark stairway, we see Rosalie's necklace being thrown into someone's hands. The person asks why Devi is not saying a word, to which he tells this individual to find the owner of the necklace immediately. The person mentions they are already searching carefully before asking whose necklace it is. Devi then calls the person, Nathan, and again tells him to go find her. Nathan asks if there is anything else he needs to do, to which Devi says to kill off everyone except the woman with blonde hair. Later, we see Rosalie actually struggling, noting how she thought this would have been easy for her to handle. Later, we see all the stupid NPCs have been taken out, while Rosalie clashes with Nathan. He tells her to get out of his way as Rosalie seems to be defending the female dog. Rosalie notes how this man appears to be Nathan as he leans over, saying she looks calm, but her heart is beating faster than he thought, making this very fun. Rosalie notes how, in the original, this was the man the Crown Prince ordered to rescue Sonia, but also that he originally never ordered to kill Bianca. Rosalie asks if the Crown Prince sent him, to which Nathan retracts his blade, asking how she knows. He then tells her he must finish his task, and then asks her to move out of the way. Rosalie tells herself this can't happen, as if Bianca dies, the Marquis of Bright will get involved. The worst-case scenario would be a huge problem occurring in her territorial war plan. Rosalie tries to think of an idea as she then recalls back to when she read that Nathan is actually wholesome with a soft spot for sweet things. She then tells him that they have a famous chocolate artisan in their family, and also mentions that Bianca's residence has a famous candy maker as well. She tells him if he lets Bianca go, then she promises to give him chocolate and candy, which causes Nathan to lick his lips. Nathan asks if Devi would be mad at him, to which Rosalie says she will convince him not to. Nathan then becomes way sweeter as he says this is nice. Rosalie meanwhile notes how easy he is to trick and how tired she is. Nathan then mentions that the blonde woman must come with him first as Rosalie says hold on. She calls for a weeping Bianca and tells her to look up. She shakes the pink-haired idiot as she then tells Bianca that she is not the culprit in this. She then asks if Bianca knows who to call if anything happens. Nathan tells Rosalie they must go as Devi is already waiting for her. They then proceed to leave and walk into a room. Rosalie turns her eyes to see shadowy Devi, who asks what Rosalie would like him to do to the mastermind behind this. He asks if she'd like him to cut off their limbs for her. She calls for His Highness, as he then asks if he should destroy their precious home. He tells her that he'll give them any revenge that she wants, and is willing to make them shed as many tears and blood as she'd like. She then grabs his hand and yells his name. She tells him that she won't die easily, as long as the US doesn't drop another bomb, of course. Her comment stuns him, and he then tells her that he is glad that she has come back alive. Rosalie then says she has a favor for him as he tells her to spill it. She tells him not to mind those guys, and to just move on as Devi asks why. He also mentions kidnapping a noble like her is high treason as well. She tells him there's something better they can do as she pleads with him. She wonders to herself why he seems so mad as he then says he will agree, but has a condition to make. He says he would like to know of the Duchess's true intentions. The shocks our female lead as she then tries to protest, but is interrupted by Nathan, who says it is getting late, and they should head back. Devi notes it is late, and then tells Rosalie that he will take her home as he places his coat over her. As he walks, Bubbles seem to float in the air around her. As she stands in silence, Nathan mentions that it was a pleasure to meet her, and she then tells him her name is Rosalie. He says goodbye to Rosalie as she notes how he looks like a cat in that pose. Outside the building, Rosalie tells Divi that she will tell him more about what had happened later. But for now, I would like to keep what happened a secret. Divi takes a breath before mentioning how the Duchess has so many requests for him. This slightly annoys Rosalie, as the horse then rides off with Divi saying a non-monetizable word. Later, while in a dark room, we see Boots walk in. Divi is then slumped over on the couch, as he notes how things are really starting to get interesting now. He recalls back to her slipper and mentions how he'd love to twist and kill every human who touches Rosalie. He then starts to recall images of her face, and then her eyes as he then clenches his fists, saying that he'll just have to endure this for a little longer. Side note, but this lighting is making him look kinda. Later, Rosalie reads the newspaper article that talks about how mercenaries were caught entering the palace during the gala. Mommy is looking for extra kidnappers instead. She recalls how mad Divi was at what happened, and how she asked him to keep the situation a secret as a favor. She then notes how this could turn into a big issue for the crown prince though. The maid then yells that a guest has arrived as Rosalie says she'll be heading over now. Rosalie then thanks Countess Seth for coming as the Countess notes how interesting the letter Rosalie sent was. The Countess mentions how she'd just read the paper today and asks if she should come back another time or not. Rosalie says that it is okay, and there is no need for that before thanking the Countess for accepting her letter. The Countess then says she is glad to be here with Rosalie and asks what the Duchess would like to buy from her business. Rosalie mentions how she'd like to buy enchanted scrolls and orange tendons in bulk. The Countess remarks how it seems as though Rosalie is making a weapon, as she then mentions it's not a guarantee her business will provide those items in bulk, as orange tendons are in high demand while being hard to obtain. Rosalie then states that she'll want it over the next 3 years, and that they will reduce the custom taxes on the LVC without any conditions. The LVC is an important delivery route between the Imperial Palace and the Lentil Kingdom, which also makes it the place where the most expensive taxes are collected. The Countess mentions how surprising this proposal is since it's a major source of income for this duchy. Rosalie tells the Countess to just make sure their business with her trade is kept secret as the Countess stares back. She then says no problem as she closes her fan, and then tells Rosalie that she will send a contract and the items to her duchy as soon as possible. Rosalie mentions how quick this decision came to, which the Countess says that it's a good deal on both ends. She also got the chance to meet the Duchess of Judah Hart. The Countess then says Rosalie is the first person to talk to her properly other than the Crown Prince. Her nasty scar that is very reminiscent of Zuko's is then shown. She's still a MILF though no cap. Rosalie asks if that is so as she internally notes how she's seen plenty of scars like that in her life. The MILF then says that Rosalie is a very interesting person to talk to as Rosalie tells her she doesn't know why she's been hearing that compliment so much recently. Countess giggles as she notes how the Duchess is really cute as well. Later, we hear Rosalie telling Sonia that she is good. Sonia asks if Rosalie is sure and asks where it hurts, to which Rosalie says that she is sure. Sonia then asks if Rosalie was really rescued by the guards, as she did not see Rosalie near the garden. Rosalie wonders if she heard this from Derivis, and how unexpected this is. She then notes that if she denies this, the prince will get embarrassed, so Rosalie tells Sonia to just not worry about what happened. The snake has that Arthur meme moment as she clenches her fists, thinking about Divi and Rosalie together. Rosalie then calls for Sonia as Sonia then grabs Rosalie's hands and says it is nothing. She says that she heard Rosalie would not be attending the ball today and mentions how running into those types of men again would be bad and surely would cause Rosalie to lose her dignity. Rosalie angrily pulls her hand away from the scaly reptile as she starts to speak. Judas then acts fake as hell, saying she needs to go to the ball now and telling Rosalie to take care. The snake then slithers off away from Rosalie as Rosalie stands in silence. She has a noticeably angry expression on her face. The day gets brighter as someone tells the Duchess she has a guest, to which Rosalie says she does not recall inviting anyone. The guy says it is the pick-me girl Bianca, as Rosalie wonders what the hell Bianca is doing here, especially when she just wants to rest. She then wonders if the girl will be here to make a ruckus and try to splash water on her again. Rosalie tells Martin not to bring the carriage and to not let anyone in, as Martin mentions how Bianca is a guest and doesn't even have a carriage with her. Rosalie walks by angrily, saying she will knock out all of Bianca's precious teeth. Later, the two sit face to face. Rosalie asks why she came to see her, as she internally hopes Bianca does not surrender. Bianca then said she would like to apologize, which came as unexpected to our female lead. Bianca then also says that she would like to call Rosalie her Unnai, which basically means older sister. This stuns Rosalie as she asks what Bianca is saying. Bianca then sits right by Rosalie and again begs to be allowed to call Rosalie Unnai. Rosalie asks why though, to which Bianca talks about how even though she kidnapped Rosalie, Rosalie still saved her. Bianca then talks about how she cannot get that moment out of her mind, as Rosalie is stone-faced before trying to get Bianca to listen to her. Bianca again then asks to call her Unnai, and then shyly says it's not that big of a deal. Rosalie then tells Lady Bianca to call her whatever she likes, which draws out a smile. She then cheers as Rosalie notes how they are both supposed to be 20. Bianca says that's okay, and that if she was born a day later she'd be 19. Bianca then says Rosalie is so cool, so she deserves to be called Unnai. She then gleefully says she thought Rosalie would be mad about it, but is so happy that Rosalie accepted this. Rosalie then mentions how she heard Bianca had an older brother and younger brother, as Bianca tells Rosalie to not mind them. She then tells Rosalie to stop by her salon sometime for fun, as Rosalie gives it a thought. A salon in this world refers to a place where gatherings are held. Rosalie thinks about how luxury is a common topic in this period, and that rumors judging others on appearance have become a big issue. She also notes how Sonia would have a hard time dealing with this. Bianca stares as Rosalie ponders before Bianca calls for Unnai. She asks if Rosalie is a close friend with the daughter of Count Ammons, which causes Rosalie to stare back at her. Later in the dead of night, we see Rosalie frustrated and holding on to her head. She recalls when Bianca asked if she was close with Sonia, to which Rosalie mentioned that they are childhood friends at least. She notes to herself that Sonia is a close friend with the real Rosalie, to be more exact. Bianca mentions how she can't get along with Sonia, before yelling about how she now has a chance to get close with the daughter of Count Ammons thanks to Unnai. Moments later, we see that Rosalie is having Bianca escorted out as she yells about wanting to have dinner with Sonia. What's so appealing about having dinner with snakes? Rosalie then decides to think of something else and notes how great Erudite's work is. She notes that due to this, she will be giving him a complimentary note today. The note mentions how his work is neat and how he did an amazing job. Rosalie tells herself it was fun pretending to not be shy as Erudite stares at the letter. As he does so, Rosalie notes how she might get into a bad habit of sending out complimentary letters starting today. Later, a crowd of people are seen in what appears to be the town. Some hooded individuals can be seen as one asks where the Intelligence Guild is. It turns out to be Rosalie as a man tells her it is over there. He tells her to go straight as they proceed forward. A figure seems to be watching them as Rosalie notices it with the side of her eye. She then moves quickly, which shocks her men. They ask where she is going all of the sudden as a street vendor then tells Rosalie they sell good jewelry here. Rosalie picks up a piece of jewelry as she mentions how someone is following them. The two men are stunned as she gives them the coordinates and description of the individual. She then tells them the plan has changed and that they will be heading to the alley. They then move off as Rosalie then turns a corner while her two men walk right behind her. The hooded individual is right on their tail. Rosalie turns as she mentions how hard it would have been to have taken this guy out at the market. Her men then turn as well as they reveal their weapons. One of them goes for a slash as the hooded individual dodges. He then yells no as the other individual puts his hand on the floor and then launches a kick. Toronto yells for Whitney as something goes right towards him. The hit lands as we then see Toronto slumped over a broken barrel. The hooded individual stands still before approaching Rosalie. She opens her mouth as she then asks Nathan what he is doing, to which he just greets her. He asks how she found out he was tailing her, to which she tells him to knock it off and asks why he followed her. He tells her he was just out for a walk until he smelled something sweet coming from her bag. Rosalie opens it, wondering if Emma put these in here. She recalls back to when she asked Emma for chocolate as Nathan yells for chocolate. She then notes how she did not need it today before just tossing the bag over to Nathan. She notes how had it not been running into him, she'd likely have thrown them away. He then asks what she is doing here and mentions that her knights will be out for a while, so he will let her know when they are well again. Rosalie angrily notes how he is saying this when he was the one who knocked them out. She tells him she is going to her intelligence guild as she has to meet someone. He asks if she is looking for someone to do something special, as she tells him that's right. He tells her if it is special, then he should tag along. She asks if he is serious, to which he tells her they should move to a different place for now. He then proceeds to carry the knights and walk off. He then stops as he tells her not to worry as he is capable of this. He then smiles as she tells him she knows he is. She also notes how he's not even struggling to carry 2 people, as he then says it'd be better if he helped her with her task. Rosalie covers her mouth to think before saying fine, and that they should move on. As they walk, Rosalie notes how she has no clue what he's thinking, but at least he is considerate. She stares as she then notes how his skills would likely be able to notice and discern Bella's motives. In addition to that, he is someone that is easy to approach. Later, in some dingy place, Rosalie asks if Nathan lives there. He mentions to her about how he has good ears, and how noisy it can be outside, so staying here should do. He then carelessly drops the men's body to the ground like those employees at the airport. This leaves Rosalie speechless as Nathan strikes a match and lights up a candle while asking what he can do for her. Rosalie takes a seat before mentioning how she needs to make sure he can do it. He then sits right next to her and asks her to just tell him. Side note: why is this dude always in a sports bra? He mentions that if she tells him, he'll do it for her. Rosalie mentions how she did not expect him to agree to this before asking if there is a reason for that. He tells her he just wants to have fun with a dear Rosalie. Rosalie thinks about the have fun statement for a moment before Nathan mentions how either way she already knows him and how he's capable of pretty much anything. Rosalie then mentions the name of her dog-faced stepmother Bella. She tells him to get close to this woman and watch her every move. She tells him to have a close enough relationship with this creature to where he can change her mind. Nathan tells her he understands and that this should be an easy task, but he will try his very best. Rosalie tells him she can handle the rest and will give him a reward for all this. She then walks over to her knights and asks how long they plan to stay asleep for. The 2 men start to wake up and wonder if this is a nightmare since they hear the voice of a devil. They then look up to see a very angry Rosalie, who tells them to wake up now or else she'll knock him around all day till he passes out again. Toronto yells to Duchess as he then asks where he is. He also wonders who the hell the redhead is. The pair of knights then stand up, saying he kidnapped them as Rosalie tells them to stop talking nonsense and follow her. The 2 stare as Rosalie gets farther away. They then nervously ask if the Duchess is hurt, to which she says no, and that they are leaving. Later on, we see Rosalie in a white dress as she then picks up a letter. It is Bianca who fawns over Rosalie and begs to see her, to which Rosalie notes how annoying this is. She then places the letter on top of a cupboard as she then lays in bed, noting how much things she has to think about. She then sits right back up in bed after sensing something before grabbing a dagger from her cupboard. The knock persists as she stares at the balcony door. She then opens it and walks into the night air. Someone tells her that it has gotten a lot easier to see her now. We see Devi in black leaning on her balcony. Rosalie asks him to explain why an intruder would politely knock on her door like that. He seems stunned by this comment, as he then says she should be more considerate to guests who come at night without notice. He also mentions her clothes as Rosalie tells him to have a seat and that she'll put on a jacket. He then looks away as he tells her he is sorry for visiting without reminding her first, to which she tells him he did a good job with that today. Devi notes how he's not sure if that's even a compliment. Rosalie then places her dagger down, saying she wants to repay him for listening to her favor. He then stares back at her, saying he does not want to be repaid, but wants her to spill everything, including her plans. She asks why he would care about such a thing, to which he says that he would be worried if anything happened to her. Rosalie wonders if he's scared Sonia would be involved, as she notes how dangerous it is that her plans are getting more attention than she anticipated. She then decides that she has no choice but to tell him so she can keep him away from her plans as soon as possible. Devi then decides she does not have to mention her plans, but also says that if anything happens to her, he will not hesitate to do as he sees fit. He closes his eyes as he says he promises her that. He then gets stunned as she straight up tells him she and the Marquis Wendell will have a territory war. She tells him that she will be preparing for this as soon as possible. She then mentions how there already are suspicious rumors about His Highness and herself, so it'd be impossible for the Marquis of Wendell to let this go. Debbie holds his head as he now understands why she stopped him now and then asks if she is ready for a full-on territory war. She tells him she plans on stepping down from the head of the manor, to which Debbie asks what will happen then. He then notes how he did not expect the Duchess to be this reckless, as she tells him she hears that a lot. She then says that there is no need for him to do anything, regardless of what her plans are. He stares as she tells him to please return home safely. As she looked forward, he let out a smile and then started to walk out. He tells her we will see about that. Later in the morning, we saw the sun shine on the manor. Maids and butlers carry in all sorts of treats as someone dashes by, creating a cloud of dust. Bianca hugs her uncle as Rosalie then tells her she could have just sent her servants instead of coming here. Bianca responds by saying she wants to see Rosalie and says that if Rosalie wants more sweets, then she should just let her know. She then hugs Rosalie and asks to go shopping together, to which Rosalie says it will be hard to keep promises, but she will try. Bianca then says if that's so, then they should go now. Later, we see Bianca staring around in the wardrobe as Rosalie keeps her face dull. Bianca tells Rosalie to look at this dress as Rosalie blandly says it suits her. Bianca rummages through the other clothes as she then asks to wrap this one. The lady says understood, as Bianca then runs to Rosalie with another dress. She asks if it looks pretty, to which Rosalie says it looks good. Beautiful on her. As Rosalie looks at Bianca, she wonders why this girl is one of the novel's villains. A girl then accidentally bumps into Bianca before apologizing. Bianca then turns it up as she asks if the girl is looking down on her. She scolds the lady as the other woman continues to apologize. Rosalie watches as she notes Bianca is mean. Mannequin. As it falls, Bianca looks back, and her eyes darken before we see that Rosalie has shielded Bianca from it. Rosalie tells the ladies it's better if they put these near the wall, to which they rush to fix the situation. Bianca then wants to have another go at being a female dog, but Rosalie tells her to stop. Rosalie says she hopes Bianca won't be mad at them anymore as they have apologized. Bianca smiles at this as she says she got it. Someone then calls for the pair, and we then see a familiar reptile. Bianca notes how she never let Lady Ammon say her name as Rosalie tells her to just stop. She says okay, a nay, which seems to trigger Sonia. She asks if they are shopping, to which Bianca rudely says of course. Rosalie says she will talk to Sonia for a moment and asks for a vacant room, which one of the workers says she'll guide them there. Bianca is left outside of the room like a dog, as inside Sonia mentions how she thought Rosalie knew that Lady Bright and she didn't get along. She then asks how Rosalie could get close to Bianca despite knowing that. Rosalie then starts to talk about how things started at the ball before Sonia interrupts, asking what happened at the ball while clenching her fists. She tells Rosalie that no matter how many times she asks Divi, he won't tell her, and that Rosalie and he seem to have a secret that they won't tell her. Rosalie tells Sonia to calm her tits down as she will explain everything now. She also says that she can call Bianca in to apologize if she wants, as Sonia then asks how Rosalie could do something she couldn't. Rosalie asks what she means. Sonia then calls Rosalie's name. She tells Rosalie to keep her distance from Lady Bright and to just listen to her advice as per usual. This prompts Rosalie to say there is no need to listen to Sonia's advice, which riles up the snake even more. She then turns to slither away again without saying another word. Bianca peeks into the room before going in and asking if Undine is okay. Rosalie says she is fine before saying she is a little tired today, so they should finish this shopping session later, to which Bianca says sure. Rosalie and Bianca both share a smile. Later in the evening, we see Bianca humming in a carriage as she notes how she can't believe Onai patted her head. She then stares outside and sees a snake on the side of the road. She recalls overhearing Rosalie ask if Sonia wants Bianca to apologize to her. She then yells to stop the carriage and calls for Lady Ammons. Sonia refers to her as Lady Bright as Bianca brushes her hair back. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe for more. Comment your thoughts below. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to turn on notifications to catch the next part. Your support means everything. See you in the next one.